She secretly dated Gregory Peck. Now we know why Ingrid Bergman was born on August 29, 1915 in Stockholm, Sweden. Her life had both really sad times and amazing happy times. Her mom died when she was only 3 years old and her dad died when she was 13. This made her an orphan when she was still young. But even as a kid, Ingrid was tough and never gave up. These things would help her later when she became famous. She loved acting from a young age. Her dad loved taking pictures and she loved watching people perform. This made her want to be an actress. She went to a really good acting school in Stockholm called the Royal Dramatic Theatre School. The best teachers in Sweden taught her there. She started small in Europe, but she had big dreams and lots of talent. Bergman first became famous in Sweden. She starred in movies that showed everyone she was a great young actress who was both beautiful and smart. Unlike many movie stars back then, she didn't want to just play pretty, simple characters. Instead, she looked for parts that let her show real feelings. This proved she was more than just a pretty face. This hard work got the attention of American movie makers. In 1939, they asked her to come to Hollywood to remake her Swedish movie Intermezzo in English. This was her first American movie. Right away, she won over both audiences and movie critics. What made her special in Hollywood was how natural she acted. This was different from the big, loud acting that was popular then. She became known not just for being beautiful but also for being real on screen. This made her one of the most loved actresses of her time. The 1940s were Bergman's best years as she played roles that made her famous forever. Her acting in Casablanca in 1942 with Humphrey Bogart is still one of the most famous movie couples ever. The movie itself became a classic that people still love today. She later starred in Gaslight in 1944, which won her the first of 3 Academy Awards. This proved she was a really good actress. Other great performances in Alfred Hitchcock's scary movies, Spellbound in 1945 and Notorious in 1946, made her even more famous as a leading lady with mystery and grace. During this time, she became a symbol of Hollywood beauty, but also of class from around the world. She had both glamour and real feelings that audiences couldn't resist. By the mid-1950s, Bergman made one of the most amazing comebacks in movie history. She came back to Hollywood and gave a powerful performance in Anastasia in 1956. This won her another Academy Award and made people respect her again as one of the greatest actresses ever. From then on, she kept doing movies from different countries and American films. She built a career that lasted across continents, languages, and many years. She was amazing at everything as she easily went from historical dramas to thrillers. From quiet character studies to big epic movies, later in life. She gave a touching performance in Murder on the Orient Express in 1974. This won her a 3rd Academy Award, proving her talent lasted even as new actresses came along. One of her last great roles was playing the famous Golda Meir in the TV movie A Woman Called Golda in 1982. For this, she won both Emmy and Golden Globe Awards. Ingrid Bergman's personal life was often as dramatic and interesting as the movies she was in. Her 3 marriages showed different parts of her life, career, and how people saw her. Her first marriage was to Peter Aron Lindström, a Swedish dentist who later became a brain doctor. She married him in 1937. At that time, Bergman was still starting her acting career in Sweden, and Lindström gave her stability and a normal life while she was becoming famous. Together they had a daughter, Pia Lindström, who was born in 1938. As Bergman's career grew around the world and she started making Hollywood movies, her marriage to Lindström began to have problems. They were apart for long times, wanted different things, and fame was very stressful. By the late 1940s, their relationship was in big trouble. Their differences became more obvious when Bergman began working in other countries for long periods. Their marriage finally ended in divorce in 1950. This happened at the same time as one of the most shocking parts of Bergman's personal life, almost right after her divorce from Lindström. Bergman married Roberto Rossellini, the Italian movie director she had started a very public affair with. Their relationship became a worldwide scandal mainly because Bergman was still married at the time and also because she got pregnant before her divorce from Lindström was finished. In conservative America after the war, this was considered shocking behavior. Bergman faced harsh criticism and was even called a powerful influence for evil by someone in the US Senate. Despite all the bad press, Bergman and Rossellini married in 1950. starting both a work and personal partnership. She starred in several of his movies, including Stromboli in 1950, Europe 51 in 1952, and Journey to Italy in 1954. These became important Italian neo-realism films. The couple had 3 children together, son Renato, Roberto, Ronaldo, Gusto, Jep, Robin, and twin daughters Isabella and Isata, born in 1952. Their marriage, however, was often stormy. Rossellini was bossy, cheated on her often, and mixing work with marriage caused problems and growing fights. After 7 difficult years, their relationship fell apart and they divorced in 1957. Bergman started her 3rd marriage the next year when she married Lars Schmidt, a Swedish theater producer who helped bring many stage shows to audiences across Europe and America. They married in 1958. Their relationship was more stable than her previous marriages, giving Bergman companionship and support as she continued her career on stage and screen. Schmidt was deeply involved in the theater world and shared Bergman's love for performing arts. This made him a partner who understood what her job demanded. Their marriage lasted for 17 years, much longer than her previous ones, but eventually they too grew apart. The couple divorced in 1975, though people say they stayed friends after their separation for many years. People whispered about Ingrid Bergman's personal life, especially during the golden age of her Hollywood career. Among the most interesting rumors was her brief but passionate romance with Gregory Peck. Both were internationally loved stars known for their talent, charm, and ability to bring unforgettable characters to life on screen. Yet, what most people did not know at the time was that Ingrid and Gregory shared a secret relationship that was kept hidden from the public on purpose. It was not until much later that Bergman herself, in honest reflections, admitted that there had indeed been more than just professional respect between them. Bergman explained the delicate situation with an honesty that has since become part of her mystery. Gregory was one of the kindest men I had ever met, but we knew the world wasn't ready for us to be together, she once said. At the time, both stars were married, and Hollywood's strict studio system made scandals nearly impossible to survive. Studios spent lots of money protecting the wholesome images of their stars, and any hint of bad behavior could ruin careers. It was not a time when you could live openly. If the press had known, the consequences would have been terrible, she said. This simple but powerful statement shows the weight of secrecy they had to carry while balancing their careers and reputations. The chemistry between Bergman and Peck first started during the filming of Spellbound in 1945, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Their roles demanded a closeness that blurred the line between acting and reality. We were drawn to each other in ways that felt completely natural, Bergman remembered. Sometimes the screen shows what is happening in life, and with Gregory the connection was undeniable. Their performances showed real authenticity which audiences felt, but only the two of them knew how much of that passion came from real emotion. Both Bergman and Peck were caught between duty and desire. Peck had a wife, Greta Kukkonen, whom he had married in 1942. And Bergman was married to Peter Lindstrom, with whom she had a young daughter, Pia. Their private lives created barriers that neither was prepared to destroy, despite the deep feelings they shared. Bergman later admitted, "There are moments in life when your heart wants to leap, but your conscience holds you back. Gregory and I made a choice, not because we didn't care, but because we cared too much about the consequences." This shows how their affair was less about wild passion and more about held-back longing. Defined by the era's moral codes and personal responsibilities, the secrecy added an almost tragic beauty to their relationship. They would steal quiet moments on set, exchanging looks and conversations that carried more weight than words. "We laughed a lot together. Sometimes laughter was the only way to hide what we truly felt," Bergman said. Yet outside the movie studio, they returned to their roles as husband and wife in their own homes, keeping their emotions tightly hidden. Looking back, Bergman thought about how short yet unforgettable that part of her life was. "Gregory will always have a special place in my heart," she said years later. "We could not continue, and perhaps that was for the best. But those days were filled with tenderness that I will never forget." Her words suggest a mix of sadness and acceptance, recognizing both the impossibility of their situation and the beauty of what they briefly shared. The secrecy surrounding their romance shows much about Hollywood in the 1940 seconds. Stars were expected to maintain images of perfection, and private desires often had to be buried beneath layers of control. For Bergman, who later faced scandal during her relationship with Italian director Roberto Rossellini, the hidden affair with Peck hinted at the struggles she would face when choosing love over reputation. Yet in the case of Peck, the affair remained a quiet memory, locked away until she allowed a glimpse of truth to come out. Ultimately, Ingrid Bergman and Gregory Peck's secret romance was never meant to last, but it adds a touching dimension to both of their legacies. It was a story of two bright stars whose lives briefly came together in a way that was as real as it was forbidden. The respect and affection they kept for each other even after the affair ended speaks volumes about their bond. Bergman's honest remarks give us not scandal but a human story of restraint, desire, and the complicated choices that come with fame. During the run of The Constant Wife in London in the early 1970s, Ingrid Bergman's life took a dramatic and devastating turn. At the height of her stage career and still beloved worldwide for her unforgettable performances in Casablanca, Gaslight, and countless others, Bergman made a discovery that would change the course of her remaining years. She found a hard lump under her left breast. At first, she tried to remain calm, continuing her performances with her usual grace and professionalism. She did not want to worry those around her or distract from the work, as she had always been a complete professional who believed in carrying on despite personal difficulties, yet she knew in her heart that the lump was not to be ignored. On June 15, 1974, she entered a London clinic where the lump was surgically removed. For many of her fans, the idea of their screen idol going through such a serious medical procedure would have been unthinkable, but Bergman faced it with quiet courage, refusing to let her illness control her every move. Her ordeal, however, was far from over. While working on Ingmar Bergman's Autumn Sonata, the intense, emotionally difficult film that paired her with Liv Ullmann and gave the world one of her finest performances, she discovered yet another lump. This discovery was particularly sad because Autumn Sonata dealt with themes of aging, death, and strained family relationships, issues that Bergman herself was facing in her private life. Despite the physical and emotional toll, she flew back to London once again to have surgery. These were not easy years. The repeated battles with her illness were exhausting, but Ingrid Bergman refused to let cancer silence her artistry. Almost immediately afterward, she began rehearsals for the play Waters of the Moon in 1978. To many it seemed remarkable that after so much pain and surgery she was still able to bring her magnetism to the stage. But Bergman always saw acting as her calling. She once said that stepping onto the stage gave her strength, as if the spotlight itself could push back the darkness gathering in her private life, despite her disease getting worse. Bergman continued to take on challenging work. In 1981, when offered the opportunity to play Golda Meir, the former Prime Minister of Israel, she did not hesitate. The television miniseries A Woman Called Golda became one of her most admired late performances, not only because of the political and historical weight of the role, but also because Bergman herself showed the same strength, dignity, and courage as the woman she played. By then, her illness was advanced, and she knew every day was a battle. But she insisted on finishing the role, giving audiences one last glimpse of her brilliance. When the project was finished, Bergman finally allowed herself to step back. She retired quietly to her apartment in Cheyne Gardens, London, a place that became her sanctuary as she underwent chemotherapy. Even in hiding, she remained the subject of public fascination. Photographers gathered outside her building, camping on the sidewalk in the hope of taking pictures of the legendary actress in her final days. Yet Bergman, always conscious of her dignity, stayed away from the front window. She did not want her weakened state to become a spectacle. She wished to be remembered as the bright woman who had captivated audiences for decades. Meanwhile, her illness continued to destroy her body. The cancer spread to her spine, collapsing her 12th vertebra, leaving her in constant pain. Her right lung stopped working altogether, and only a small portion of her left lung remained usable. Breathing, moving, and even simple daily tasks became huge challenges. But she faced them with the same quiet strength that had defined her life. Finally, on August 29, 1982, at the stroke of midnight, Ingrid Bergman passed away in London. In a touching twist of fate, her death happened on her 67th birthday, as if her life had come full circle in a final symbolic moment. The world mourned not only the loss of a great actress, but also the loss of a woman who had faced scandal, exile, triumph, and illness with unwavering grace. To her fans, her death marked the end of an era. She had lived her life with intensity, with courage, and with the kind of dignity that ensured her legacy would last long after her passing.